And how are you, buddy? I have bipolar 1 disorder with psychotic features, just like I did yesterday and the day before, and just like I will tomorrow and the day after. So I do this daily mood journal to try to not just remind myself of that, but also it's something that I feel gives me some kind of an awareness of my mood every day, helps me check in with different questions that I probably wouldn't ask myself on a daily basis. And if I wasn't doing the journal, I I doubt I would do any of these exercises that we do during these episodes. So I hope you follow along. If you're bipolar, if you have a family member who also has the disorder, then maybe you can share the show with them. Give them an idea of what a mood journal should be. I mean, it's suggested. It's just one of the things. Really, it's not even about. It's about getting out what's stuck inside. You know what I mean? You get all these emotions and feelings stuck inside, and you just got to get them out sometimes. And sometimes for us, us neurodivergents, us in, we have to come up with a better, us NDs, you know what I mean? OG NDs, we're, we got a lot turning in that area. So, today I'm just going to check in where my mood is, what I'm learning, how I trust the process, even when, everything feels kind of uncertain. And that's what it is. My mood today, am I depressed, anxious, hopeful, mixed? I got a little bit of anxiety. I'm hopeful, but I got some anxiousness. Um, Energy level, I would say it's low, medium, restless. I would say I'm a medium. I have a little bit more energy today. I've tried to use it in a positive way, but just for answering the question, I got a medium. I got plenty of sleep last night, probably like 10 hours, but the quality, I'm not sure. I was kind of moving around a little bit. I didn't get under the covers. Sometimes I don't do that. Medication side effects for today: appetite, motivation, tiredness. I've been kind of fighting through the tiredness and the motivation. And then with my appetite, the only thing I'm doing any differently is I'm trying to drink some water before I eat anything. You know what I mean? If I got to eat, I'll try to drink a cup of water today before I eat, just to see if it helps curb how much I want to eat. I'm on a couple antipsychotics, and both of them can cause an increase in appetite. So I'm doing what I can to not. I don't want to put on a bunch of weight. It took me a long time to lose a bunch of weight, and I'm happy where I am. I'm not trying to lose weight, but I don't want to gain any. And stress level. What feels heavy today? Well, we'll get into that. So, what's actually going on today? Um, like I said yesterday, I did get a role. I think it starts on December 8th as peer support specialist or peer support. I think that's what they're called. Just a peer supporter, certified peer supporter, somebody with lived experience. And I don't know. So now what I do, and maybe you guys are the same way, what I do whenever something happens is I always immediately try to imagine what it takes to be the best version of that. And, without having any idea of what my position really entails and what to expect, I already put the worry on me of, so I'll just search it out, like what does a peer support specialists do, and I watched a bunch of videos on what they do, and it's no surprise I already kind of knew what they did. That's why I applied for the job and went through the certification, and clearly I'm okay with telling my stories because I've done that since, you know, since I realized that I was bipolar and since I realized that something had happened. I've been on YouTube talking about it, but that's just where I feel the most comfortable is being on YouTube and or being behind a microphone and expressing my feelings makes me feel better. So, but because I got this new job of peer support specialist, I try to imagine like every problem that's going to come with it. And then I try to solve all the problems without having, the problem doesn't even exist yet. It's just in my head. I've made the problems up like, well, what if somebody comes in and they're really depressed about this? What would I say in that situation? How would I help them? How would I support them? What would make me a better peer supporter in that situation? Um, and and that's just for, it goes on and on. I just keep thinking of those. But in addition to that, my job as of right now is to fill out the pre-employment paperwork side of it, and there's just a few things I'm waiting for in order to fill that out appropriately. And so it's like, I hope they're not mad that I haven't got it filled out yet. I hope that I didn't fill it out wrong. I hope that, all these questions in my mind come from that. I hope that my paperwork doesn't cause me to not get the job. Like if I do it in a way that's going to make them reconsider and go with somebody else, I hope that I'll be able to do the job. There is that side of what I've been worried about today, because another thing that I've been going through is just the expenses of what about the time that I went manic. I have to go through those for, I'm working on becoming, I guess, being part of a conservatorship. My wife is working on becoming the conservator. My wife, who, by the way, I'm grateful for, just like I'm grateful for my children. We didn't do our gratitude check-in. I put it later on this episode, so we'll get to it. Maybe there's a reason for that. But I feel like the paperwork aspect, although some people call it like simple paperwork, for me, it feels a bit overwhelming because some of it's trying to remember your manic. I don't remember a lot of it. I don't remember a lot of what happened when I was manic. I remember the really bad, just instances with, they're not even really bad, like basically when somebody else finally noticed that I needed help. I remember those instances. And that means that somebody else noticed that I was not well, and wanted to take me in so I could get the help and the medication that I needed. They realized that I wasn't looking at reality through reality's lens. I was delusional. And those instances of delusion, now it's like I'm sifting through memories that I don't really have. And so it's difficult to categorize that. And it's also, it's a bit depressing and a bit overwhelming. And so I get pulled in that direction, which is a separate thing. The conservatorship is a separate thing that I'm doing in addition to working on pre-employment paperwork as a peer supporter. And so it's those kinds of tasks are just difficult for me at the moment, and maybe they shouldn't be. And you question that, shouldn't this be easy? But you just feel like you're being pulled in a lot of directions, and that's how I've felt today. There's a question and answer I'm supposed to add if I could try it. What's the best way to eat an Oreo? I'm not going to ask you guys that question. I mean, I great for the advice from YouTube of I'm supposed to be asking live questions to the audience, but I'm not going to ask you what the best way to eat an Oreo is with your mouth, brother. Um, I'm learning to trust the timing, trust the process versus wanting control. I like to have, I don't like this feeling of being caught in the in between. Um, I don't like the feeling of still being connected to my manic self, which having to go through the expenses does. I get that it's all part of it, but I'm still caught. I'm ready to move on into the next chapter where hopefully that chapter is just continued stability. And if it means, which is what it seems to mean, that I have to come on here on a daily basis and chit chat with you guys to stay grounded and to stay aware of my disorder, then that's what it means. But I don't like being pulled back, not just into my mistakes I made while manic, but I also don't like being pulled back into my old life that might have caused it, the stresses of my old life, which is I'm not completely out of. I'm not talking about my wife and kids and the responsibilities as a dad or a husband. Those I enjoy, and those are what I'm the most grateful for. It's more the responsibility that I had as a entrepreneur or as a son, um, or as a mixture of the two. I feel like those were pulling at me too much, and I'm ready to let those go and move on somehow into helping people and not feeling like a burden. I don't know. The times when I was sick, the times when I was ill, the times when my, you know, disorder got the best of me, those are the worst times to reflect on, and that's what I'm having to go through right now. So I understand that stability takes time. Um, so I just got to trust the process. I keep telling myself, trust the process and don't worry about wanting all the answers of how to do the best job as a peer supporter right now. Don't worry about even getting all the answers that you have to get the job right now. You know what I mean? Like, just take it one little step at a time and it will all come together as it's supposed to. But if you were like me, if you were like a high performer and somebody that used to use your memory, my wife was calling. Although I want to answer, I'll just get through the show real quick. My brain doesn't feel as reliable as it once did for obvious reasons. I've had a few manic episodes and a really bad depressive episode within the past few years. And so, although I feel okay now, I feel like I'm in the right place now. Um, I just need to stop comparing myself to the old version of myself. If I could do that, and just remember that I've already done things today that have helped me. Um, I've already, maybe today my job is just to stay grounded and to just start on certain things. And that's what I did by working on the pre-employment package and working on the expenses that I had through this past year. Although I will say that I'm very confused by all of it and I don't know how to figure it out. But I also know that we're going to get there. It's the reason, I mean, we will figure it out together. So it's just very confusing. And I remember after my last manic episode when I was doing some billing, I went down and looked at the computer with my siblings, and we're talking about billing that I had designed it. Like, this is something that for the business I was a part of, I was doing for like 15 years. I had been using the same billing system, and it was all my design, and I logged into the computer. I couldn't even remember the login. Like, that's how they tell you, you read that you have, cognitive decline or brain fog or memory problems or all these things, and you don't know how that's all going to affect you. And it's embarrassing to tell people, like, and it was embarrassing. I was like crying, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I'm looking at the computer screen, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And today was not that bad. I wasn't crying about it, but I was definitely looking at it going like, how the hell did this happen? Not me spooling up in the mania. I was ready to look at that. I don't understand how the numbers add up to what they add up to. I don't get it. So, and I don't know I don't have any idea. So, we're going to get through it, but I just have to trust that it's going to happen and not worry that it's not done. It's hard to chunk it out into pieces. Sometimes people say just you can chunk stuff out into pieces, and that's hard for me right now. It's one of the things I'm trying to do. So, like, instead of mopping the whole floor today upstairs, I just mopped the kitchen. And then once I did that and realized it only took me like 2 minutes, I, mopped the living room. But, um, what's up, Greg? God bless you, brother. Yeah. Well, another BP1 with psychotic features. Yes. It feels good to not be alone here. So thank you for saying something. The peer support insight, that's kind of the next section. It's okay to not feel ready for everything. I guess it's because I had been talking about one of it. I'm concerned about being the best peer supporter I can be. Like, I've already moved into, even though I haven't done 1 hour of work as a peer supporter yet, I'm already in my mind going on hours and hours of work for them. You know what I mean? I'm already worried about my job review without even going through orientation. And so I keep trying to remind myself, like, the reason they're hiring me is because because I have this lived experience, because I'm bipolar. So stop worrying that they're going to find out that you're bipolar. Stop worrying that they're going to go through your rec. It's like, of course they're going to, that's why they're hiring you. But, then I worry, am I going to be able to do a good enough job? Am I going to have the energy? Am I, if I take the medications that I currently take, am I gonna have the energy to do a good job? It's just I know that everybody worries about things. Everybody. So sometimes you wonder, maybe Greg, do you worry too much? Uh, I think sometimes we worry a little bit too much, or more than others, it seems. But one of the DBT skills is called stop, take a breath, observe, proceed mindfully. I did go, yes, everything. I figured. But I don't know if that's just us, man. I don't know if it's just us, like us bipolar 1 people, uh, that I try to compare myself. It's hard because I don't ever compare myself to others. Maybe you're the same with that too. I'm only comparing myself to other versions of myself, my pre-diagnosis self, my manic self, my depressed self. And then it's like, if I'm any of those, I, I can't, I'm not going to be able to perform. You know what I mean? So it's like the only version of them that they're gonna want is like this one, the number right in the middle, the baseline version. And to be honest, I don't know if my baseline version's good enough because so much of the past 3 years has been the up and down bipolar coaster, and even prior to that, I think so much of my life was just a constant hypomanic loop that I was on. So with self-medication, I'm grateful that I have changed so much, and got sober once I got diagnosed, stopped drinking, because I think I was just drinking to try to combat the symptoms of hypomania and to get rest. It seems that way just because it seems that way to me because the desire to drink is I didn't have it once I stopped and got on medication and figured out what was actually going on with me. And so I'm grateful for that. Maybe we'll just move into the gratitude list. I'll I'll stop worrying about everything. This episode should just be like Greg said, oh yeah, I use cannabis. Yeah, I use like CBDs and stuff too. And it seemed like the more I would to self-medicate, the more I had to stop too. And the funny thing is, it's not funny probably, but during my last manic episode is when I started doing CBD, like the stuff you buy at gas stations or whatever, but it still, they say, has some kind of THC in it or whatever. Um, I buy all those, you know what I mean, during my manic episode. Whereas when I'm not manic, I don't even use it. So it's like a red flag for me. If I start buying CBD stuff and doing CBDs, I think it's like a subconscious thing. I'm trying to fight the mania, basically. That sounds like what you were doing. So I'm glad you stopped, dude. Um, oh yeah, yeah. Even with a medical card, were you were you doing the same way though? Like, were you? Greg says that he had a med cannabis card in Maryland, but when you were doing it, did it cause mania, or was it when you were getting manic that you noticed that you were doing it more? Because that's what like mine was like, and I don't know that when it's happening. I knew it upon like reflecting on my manic episode. Like, oh my gosh, that's when why do I have 5 CBD vapes? You know what I mean? And I would just get a bunch of them, and I didn't want to run out. And whereas I don't even use it when I'm stable. So, um, we're gonna go into the gratitude list is Oh yeah, right. Didn't know you was bipolar. Yeah, that's when I didn't know I was. I wonder how old you were when you found out. I get it. You didn't know you were bipolar, so you were doing stuff subconsciously, or is that I think it's subconsciously to try and fight the symptoms of mania, and when in fact what you needed was medication and possibly what therapy. So 44, yeah. But you made it a little longer than I did, man. Good for you. I was 36 when I got diagnosed. Um, Today I'm grateful for sobriety for myself because I do know that if I was still like just feeling like that every day was bad. I don't want to feel hungover or sick, you know. That was bad. I'm grateful for the wife and kids. I'm grateful for having a purpose even if the purpose is through the even if the purpose is through the podcast, like. And I guess it says, I'm grateful for the ability to start over today because you do kind of just, that is one thing with this disorder. You do have to take it day by day. Oh, former Yukon football. I'll look you up, brother. Um, that's cool. Thanks for watching, man. Small wins for today. Well, this is like options of, I've already done some of these. I went to the gym. It's been so damn hard for me to mentally get myself out of my own head to have a clear enough mind to just exercise for an hour. That's all I try to do is go on a jog for about an hour. I try to jog like at a 10-minute mile pace, so I get a 5 mile a day thing is kind of my goal. Over the past couple days, like I've said, I'd go like a mile and then I'd just have to walk. And I don't know if I walked uh 5 miles or 4 mile. I mean, it didn't matter because I was already kind of like a failure in my own head. But today, I did get an hour in on the exercise front, just a slow jog. So that felt good. I've tried to drink more water, which I know sounds ridiculous. Like, um, people take that for. I don't drink water. Like, uh, what's you're great too, Greg. I'm not great. I appreciate you saying that though. Um, the next question is, what do you do to keep your mind busy when exercising? Well, that's a good question because, dude, when manic, exercise became another outlet. Like, and I would get lost in exercise, but I'd also get lost in music. And then my delusions sent me into this thing where Apple Music will curate like your own playlist. So Conrad's playlist is based on things that you like to listen to. We think you're going to like this. And it was all this stuff I'd never heard before, but it was based off of my, Eminem, and I'm from that era, of hip hop and rap and Eminem was kind of my like get pumped up guy. Well, they would send me all these songs and I would think that the universe was speaking to me through Apple Music. So when I'm not manic, I'm I struggle because I'm afraid to even turn the damn thing on, like I'm afraid to get caught back up in that delusion like, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard this song before. I've never heard of this artist, but it just spoke about my entire life." So, one thing that and it, I found helpful today is I just put on some like meditation music or something. Like I literally want to let my mind escape, and that's what I googled is like meditation on YouTube, meditation music to run to, and there was an hour long one. It was kind of not that good to be honest with you, but it worked. I was I would prefer to have. Sometimes it's too slow of a pace to listen to a podcast or to listen to a book while running. It's just there's not enough, so that's hard. Like a walk, if I'm going on a walk, I'd like to listen to a book. It's better than music for me. But today I just listened to this meditation playlist thing, and it was all right. It got me through, and the best runs, if you are a runner or a jogger or a whatever, if you're finding a way to escape your mind while exercise, the best is when you can get into a flow. That's what's so hard about this disorder and the way your brain fires around to different thoughts, and especially when, you know, if you got a lot going on in the real world. Like right now I got a lot going on. I'm probably working on going through my first bankruptcy. So that's bothering me. I've never went bankrupt before. I've always been good with money, and so that's like firing over here. How do you go bankrupt? What's going to happen with it? How does that work? I'm working on this conservatorship where my wife is going to be my conservator because of, the decisions I was unable to make while manic. Like I wasn't able to make good. I need somebody to basically. I trust her enough that I know she has my best interest, and that I don't know how to I wasn't able to be in control during my last episode without once I got on the right medications. I've been fine and I felt fine, but knowing that I have to have that medication um, lassoed around me, and if I don't have that right medication, I don't necessarily notice when I go off the deep end. You know what I mean? So that's bouncing around in my brain when I'm exercising. And then I applied for a job as a peer supporter and I got it. But like I was saying at the beginning of this episode, real worried about if I'm even going to do that job right. So that's bouncing around. So I got like these, and I got a bunch of paperwork I'm supposed to do for all of these different things. And a lot of that paperwork has to do with me going back through my expenses during my manic episode and trying to figure out what happened, and it's like I have no idea. That's why I'm getting a conservator. That's that's why I'm getting a job as somebody with the disorder, because it's that real. So um I was talking to my sister. I had a long chat with her. That's the best thing I did today. I would say that's my small win, where it feels like I actually took my peer support certification over a year ago when I figured out that people with bipolar disorder have a chance to do something like that, like use their lived experience to help people. And I was excited that that opportunity existed. But after taking the course, I was like, well, I'm not sure that that's what I want to do. Um, Let me read what this says before I go on. As somebody with bipolar 2, but controlled through keto, and currently suffering from a panic disorder, holy shit, can I relate with the difficulty? I bet you can. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you're going through a panic disorder. I don't I can imagine what that is. If it has anything to do with that burning feeling of anxiety or that you did something wrong and you're the only one that knows about it, even though you did nothing wrong, then yeah, I get it. Yeah, that stucks in me. And the music especially. Yeah, I got to be careful with it. I love music, and I would like to tell you that here's a playlist of something that's going to I could tell you a playlist that you would think that you're some sort of, space warrior if you listen to. That's what got me on my last manic episode. But as far as one to let your mind go, it's just, I don't know, man. I'm struggling. If you can get an answer, what do you do? Because I don't have the answer for that right now. I struggle with that. But I was talking to my sister today, and I was telling her that after I've had 3 major manic episodes, but after my first one, I wasn't diagnosed, and I kind of spent like 10 months in this really strange hypomanic stage, and never kind of hit the depression. But after my second manic episode, where I was diagnosed and it was clear that I had this bipolar one with psychotic features because I was delusional and psychotic. I had a psychotic break. I was delusional on the first one too, but through quitting drinking and exercise and maybe diet change, I was able to, like, I don't know, grit my teeth through. It's really not good, the way that all went down. Um, let's see here. I'll get back to these and I'll go to it. I had, I had struggles with crescendos in classical music, so I had to do brown noise for a while. Yeah, I have done the thing where it's like just tones. You know what I mean? Like where it's like just the tuning forks or just a certain tone. Sometimes I'll just listen to that. Or there was an app called Indle, which uses like your whole surround, and it just creates some sort of background music to what you're doing. So if you're exercising, it does the something that, and it felt like it wasn't getting out of control for me. You know what I mean? Because it was based on what I was literally doing. But um, Conrad, was your last manic episode where was I medicated? I was medicated during my last manic episode, but they had me on, that's what I was saying is it was after my second episode when I went into the bipolar depression, and it was that depression that was worried the doctors and the people I was around so much. And so during that depression, they gave me an antidepressant, and I wasn't on an antipsychotic at all. So I think I was kind of like, I wasn't misdiagnosed. They had me on Lamictal, and then they put me on Wellbutrin, but I didn't have an anchor for my, I really didn't have an anchor for spooling up. And so what happened is I had a pretty stressful trigger happen with breaking up with the family business and leaving, and I just I don't know when it kind of started, like what I was saying earlier, because once you're in a manic episode, you're stuck in that reality until somebody, or once you're in a psychotic episode for sure, you're stuck in that psychosis until somebody can get you out. Some people probably stay stuck in there, I guess. So, but it was that depressive episode that I had to live through, and then it's like it took going manic yet again. It's like now I've done the full spectrum, and now I'm capable of being a peer supporter. How long were my episodes on average? Well, between like, I would say like the longest of I don't know, man. At least a few weeks of at least the build. I mean, a month, if month before and a month after of a psychosis of build up and come down, at least a month. But the actual being in psychosis, being in a different reality, a couple, I would say a week or two. Um, Time gets real strange when you're looking back, and like I've been looking back at the days that I spent money, and it just like, geez Louise, was it all of August? Was it all of July and August that I was in this altered state, you know what I mean? Like you it's longer than it feels. Time for us, I think, is really strange anyways. You know, a day can feel like a week, and a week can feel like a day for me. So, um, let's see here. Same. Mine were probably 2 weeks, I think, but I was only hypomanic or depressed, never manic. That's still, you're still not yourself, man. That's what's so devastating about this is even when you're hypomanic and people just think you're ultra productive, yeah, time doesn't exist when you're in your own head. That's true, unless you think you are time. You know what I mean? Which only somebody with bipolar would understand. Like you're actually time. Like, but anyways, I think I had to go through the whole thing. I think that if I'm gonna trust the timing, which sorry to say timing so many times. Sorry, I'll try to. If I'm going to trust the universe on when things are supposed to happen, because and trust that like everything happens for a reason, which is really hard for me to do because it makes you kind of kick yourself and be like, well, why did this happen to me then? And I think for me, what I've tried to do is be like, I'm supposed to be, I've been doing, I've been sharing my story in some way for 15 years. 13 of those are 12 of those years I wasn't doing it as a bipolar person. I was doing a comedy podcast that nobody listened to. But since becoming bipolar, all I've done, I didn't take very much time off before I was like, oh, I just need to talk about this. I found other people talking about it. Once I found other people were doing podcasts or had shows or TED Talks or books or whatever it was, like there was I consumed all of it. I was like, yes, I have a crew out there somewhere, so I can do this. And so I just started sharing here, and now I'm hopefully will be able to take it and get a job with it, like with as that peer supporter. But I got a lot of stuff I have to do, not just to get the job, which in order to get that job, it's the hardest job ever to get. Peer supporter, or you know what I mean? It's like that's the hardest job ever to get. It means that with lived experience, it means that you had to go through this crap. So that's what your resume is. And even if you've never been fully manic and you've only been hypomanic, that's not the right word to use, because hypomanic, I've done, it was just as bad. It was just as bad, only I slept more. You know what I mean? I maybe slept. I don't know. I don't consider when I was hospitalized for my last manic episode, I was at my most insane while I was in that hospital. And it's probably the stress of the situation and all this, but I was my most insane while I was in there. But upon reflection, if the things leading up to it, like leading up to hospitalization, and the things after hospitalization count as hypomania, it wasn't me then either. Like hypomanic Conrad is not Conrad, just like I'm sure hypomanic what the shuck is not shuck. So, and when you have to deal with explaining to people that it's not multiple personality, it's like you have this brain difference. People don't understand what it is. So I do got to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. But I'll be back tomorrow. I do this daily live mood journal every day to try to give myself a little bit of grounding and awareness. And I appreciate the comments today. And I'd stick on here for some more, but I got to go get the kids. I don't mean it as one's worse. I just meant I never had the delusions of grandeur. Just would blow a lot of money and be real overactive. Thanks for doing this. It's really nice to find. Well, thanks for commenting. And I didn't take it as one worse. And I know what you meant. I mean, I didn't know what you meant. Thanks for explaining it. But the delusions of thinking that you're a Jesus, I had that, or thinking that Jesus was talking. So it's just a different level of being out of your mind, brother. That's all it is. So thank you guys for watching. Be good to yourself. I'll be back tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Have an okay day. And don't let your meat loaf.